Welcome to The Bone, the podcast that goes deeper. Here we cut through the noise and get straight to the core of the issues that matter. From real stories to raw truths, we dive deep into the conversations that shape our world and challenge our thinking. We're not afraid to dig in and get to the marrow of it all. Whether it's life, culture, or business in sports medicine, we're here to break it down raw and real. No filters, no fluff, just to the bone. With your host, Shelby Daly, we're getting to the bone. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Bone. Today we have Adam Halpern, and he's pretty well known in the athletic training world right now because many people know of Wave On, which is the company that he put together for telehealth for athletic trainers, if that's simplifying it quite a bit. But I wanted to have him on to have kind of a free riff about things that are going on in athletic training. So how's it going, Adam?
It's going well. I'm excited to do that free riff. We were just talking before we went on air, let's just wing it. Let's just see what happens. Let's listen to each other and talk about the state of the profession and the opportunity and where we're both going. So I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, definitely. Well, today I posted something. I don't know if anybody actually looked into the process of California trying to do their licensure this past year. They got the registration. I always get confused which one it is. But I actually went back and watched some of the videos to see what were some of the opposition saying to why athletic trainers shouldn't get licensure. And of course, it was the physical therapists, the nurses, the unions, all that type of stuff. But basically, I'm not sure what their interpretation of athletic training is, but they basically were saying that it isn't a medical service. They were saying we provide athletic training services, and I don't know what that definition is at this point, if they're saying it's not medical. And then they were talking about how the California legislation that they were putting forward was too broad of a definition on the patient population. So obviously they're being competitive in the market and trying to protect their interests. But at the same time, if healthcare is so limited and it's hard to access in the US at this moment, I'm just not sure what the intentions or the ethics are from these different groups that are opposing licensure in California for athletic trainers. Whatever you think about that.
Is that your thought?
Well, I think it's just obviously Florida just went through some legislation that they were trying to take away their their licensure. So how do we better prepare ourselves with the competitive market, even though healthcare, I think we're supposed to all kind of lift each other up because we are just providing, a human right kind of thing of access to healthcare. So I wanted to see what your thoughts on that is.
No, that's clearer on how I can provide my insights. And as you have many guests on the show, everyone has their opinion. Some of it is research backed, some of it is opinion backed, some of it is experience backed, and all of it is valid because it's all pushing the profession forward. When you mention that, my initial question is, well, why is the restriction and the limitation of what athletic trainers can do in other states? Is it the scarcity mindset because people don't want their little territory to be disrupted? Is it the financial perspective that they feel if there's too many players in the insurance market, they're going to lose business? At the end of the day, it's a free market, and an individual should be able to choose what they want based on the end service. And when you have insurance as the major payer, that creates a barrier for a lot of people because that is who is going to actually pay for the service. My perspective, and this comes from many conversations, being an athletic trainer, being on our district board as the treasurer for many years. And some of you might know David Gallegos because he was our district director for a while. And he was a professor when I was in college, so I've known him forever. And when he was our district president, no, he wasn't our president, he was our secretary, so we were very close. because we were both on the DST committee, and we gave a presentation, and he said it best. It's like, it doesn't matter what your profession is. It's more about, I'm David giving the service, or I'm Adam, the person giving the service. And I think that's what our profession has to really hone in on is, I'm so-and-so. How can I best provide the service for the athlete or the parent of the athlete or the general public who is athletic? And obviously, I have my own perspective because of what we're doing with Wave on Health and how we're going after the most underserved population in healthcare. That if we put the healthcare conversation on the table, the most underserved population is actually the healthy and the active. Because healthcare, as most athletic trainers agree, is sick care. Once you're sick or injured, it does an amazing job. Once you have surgery, therapists can do an amazing job. But it's not really around prevention. It's not really around early intervention. Obviously, it's not around wellness. And because of what you mentioned with the change in healthcare and the lack of providers across the country, there is a shortage. The rural communities don't get the same type of support as the urban settings. So when you mention on the simplest level, like the telemedicine of athletic training, there's a lot of athletes that are underserved, don't have the resources in their community. They can't drive 5 hours to go see a physical therapist in their office to deal with the first degree ankle sprain. Well, that's kind of where we come in. So it's really filling a void for a lot of people. But I use this term very emphatically, like in the startup space where I am. And just as the analogy, like Uber disrupted the taxi industry. Airbnb disrupted hotels and motels. Disruption usually means displacement. And the reason I put it that way, what we're doing, and really what athletic training has always done, and this is what athletic trainers need to highlight, we don't displace anyone. We still work with physical therapists. We work with orthopedic surgeons. We work with imaging centers. We work with OTs. And I think that's that scarcity mindset is like, if we really look at what athletic training does, it's a niche and it's not about replacing anyone. So hopefully the other healthcare professionals can realize we can all play in the same sandbox because there's a lot of people that we can help. A lot of people.
Yeah. Well, that's, I keep saying is like, I feel like we are the best at referring people. We streamline the healthcare so it's not, I think it's just so frustrating that you have to enter the hospital system. You might not even be paired with the correct provider that first instance of intake. And then it goes down the hole of, oh, let's try this one. Oh, it's not really that type of specialty. Let's go down this other specialty. And it gets very expensive very quickly. And that's, I think, the most frustrating. And it takes time. Right now, I'm in the outpatient orthopedics at the hospital. And, you know, you're in the office. Yeah, I'm having a shoulder injury or problem. My knee kind of hurts. Can't I schedule both providers at the same day because I'm here? And insurance won't let you be seen twice in one day for orthopedic things.
Yep.
And people have to take off time for work. They have to find babysitters. They have to make all these accommodations to be able to get the health care. And I think that's very interesting too.
You bring up another kind of interesting point, but it's also validated on how I think and how I look at our profession by other professionals in both the business market and kind of the healthcare market. What insurance companies are doing across the country, and some of the listeners might have their own insurance plan that offers this, because I had one, they have a healthcare navigator. So whatever insurance you have, you contact them and you say, I'm looking for a provider for this. And then they're able to look at the schedule and get them to see that provider. And there's a lot of value for that because it's decreasing the complexity. However, they don't provide any clinical support. So it's still left up to the patient to understand kind of who they want to see. And then they're given a provider based on proximity to their house and availability in their schedule. The reason I bring that up, what athletic training has been extremely successful at since its inception 70 years ago, that a lot of athletic trainers kind of neglect, and you mentioned it, we're really the athletic health navigator. And yes, there's referrals because we have those existing relationships with the specialists that we basically bring in the goalposts. We literally deliver the highest level of triage. So these athletes go to see a specialist based on the specialty that's needed for the injury. And that's the uniqueness of athletic training. How I describe it, by being that athletic health navigator, we deliver that comprehensive end-to-end solution for athletes, whereas everything else is a single point solution. Like physical therapy really does one thing really, really well, but they don't do the athletic health navigation from pre-participation physical. I'm going to walk up and down the stretching lines every day just to check in on you. And when you have a small form of discomfort, I'm able to give you what you need in the moment, all the way through post-surgical rehab, right? Everything we do is ongoing, can change from Monday morning to Monday afternoon at practice. And once again, that's the scarcity mindset. But I also think it's a kind of a limitation of our profession, really not highlighting the uniqueness of what we do. It's more about we're following Big Brother. And I think athletic training as a profession has little brother syndrome, that we want to do what everyone else does because we're kind of the last person to the party, instead of saying they can do what they do. Let's focus on our uniqueness because that's actually what's needed in the market. There is not an athletic health navigation piece for 24 million everyday athletes. And once again, that's obviously what we're doing, but there's a huge opportunity for that navigation referral piece that you're referring to.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of athletic trainers need to reflect on is, am I here to do everything, or am I here to be efficient with my time and evaluate and refer to the person that can do it the best?
Yeah.
I think sometimes everybody has ego, every profession has ego for some providers, but I think that's where some of this burnout comes from in our profession, is that we feel like we have to do the manual therapy, the massage, we have to do the evaluation, we have to watch every athlete do their rehab and make sure they are showing up on time, making sure they're getting water on the sideline,
Yep.
doing the proper activation, the cool down and all that stuff, where if you're a good leader, you delegate it to the people that are actually strong enough to carry it out. You're on the same page with that provider and you have a common understanding of what you're trying to achieve, while athletic trainers are kind of the center, the quarterback, I guess, to make sure everything kind of comes together. But I mean, some people are out there by themselves at a high school. They don't have strength and conditioning. They don't have any of these other resources. So I think it's trying to be smart and resourceful and being able to expedite and ship out some of the things that you can't really manage on your plate.
You're spot on. There's two kind of other business terms that come into play when you mention that, is efficiency and scalability. And right now, I feel athletic training is very inefficient because athletic trainers are relying on an in-person human touch to do everything. And then they're leveraging a lot of different tools and resources and technology and settings and sites and locations and climates and you name it. Until athletic training can improve the efficiency and scale, it's going to be a lot of these problems still occur. And then we haven't even talked about the financial model. We're an expense on most budgets and we're not a revenue generator. So it's difficult for our profession just to kind of switch gears overnight and say, hey, school district, we should get $20,000 more. Go ask the state for more funding. And it's a challenging thing for the actual financial institutions to realize what we're doing.
Yeah. I'll say it till I die. The ROI model does not work for the collegiate and the high school setting, because we are saving money to the athlete, not to our employer. And we can, use as many ICD codes, how much money we're technically saving, but we're still not utilizing those numbers or I don't know if we're not utilizing those numbers correctly or we're not documenting correctly on the preventative side, because that's how you save money to the secondary insurance, is showing the programming you're doing to prevent those injuries, because we don't know how many injuries are not happening. We can never come up with that number. By showing the ICDs of the evaluation and treatments is showing that technically we're not really doing our job. Not saying, like, we can't prevent every injury, obviously, but it's kind of reinforcing that we're doing the physical therapy portion, which I don't know. I think it's a debate on, are we more prevention or are we the emergency post-treatment profession? I think there's a split there, even though we can do both. But what is our emphasis on? Is it that we are the risk management, or are we the reactive post-management?
Yep. What are your opinions, and or what are most of your other guests referring to? What is their thought?
On where I haven't actually really asked that question a lot.
Yeah. So that's just like what's percolating in your mind lately is, are we on the risk mitigation perspective or are we on the reactive treatment perspective?
I'm thinking, obviously, we harp on the emergency response because that is the most drastic and dramatic portion of our job, and it's life or death sometimes. But I do think that we are really good at the wellness and prevention portion, but I don't think that we really play that up enough. Because, I mean, it's safe, it's not exciting, it's not sexy.
Comfortable, low profile, flexible, and easy to put on, the Vero ankle brace is simply the best ankle brace for those who move. And that's just about everybody. This brace is adaptable for any phase of injury recovery, whether you're recovering from an ankle sprain, require extra support for your day-to-day, or want to boost your performance. The Vero ankle brace delivers. The Vero ankle brace uses every movement and every step to give you extra boost. The 3-in-1 brace can be worn on either foot, making it the most optimal ankle brace for injury recovery and prevention. The removable stirrups, easy adjust Velcro, and breathable design adapt to your ankle as your strength returns, helping to protect you from re-injury. A dynamic support brace designed by leading orthopedic foot and ankle surgeons. The Vero ankle brace effortlessly adapt to your movements, offering dynamic energy return and support with each step. VeroAnkle.com. Check it out for yourself. VeroAnkle.com. That's VeroAnkle.com.
So it's hard to market sometimes, but I think it's how you market it. If we market it as performance instead of prevention, I think we could get more money out of that because people see performance as outcomes. Prevention is kind of that limbo of, injuries are still going to happen. So yeah, how much are you actually preventing ultimately?
This might be a valuable kind of pseudo definition to what you're referring to. Anyone can do a prevention program. A personal trainer with no experience can do a shoulder prevention program, an ACL prevention program. So I think the word prevention sometimes gets kind of lost in translation.
Mm-hmm.
How I just use the term prevention around athletic training, we're preventing it from happening again, preventing it from getting worse, or preventing long-term high medical expenses with that direct navigation piece that we talked about before. Mm-hmm. So I think you're exactly right. It is, do we highlight more of the prevention, performance perspective, or which is risk mitigation, or are we highlighting the emergency care reactive? When I talk about the comprehensive end-to-end navigation piece, what we're promoting is literally all of that. And that's where, by having an athletic trainer in your pocket, really what people want, and this is validated through thousands of customer discoveries. You're one of them. All of the listeners are one of them, that if I kind of pose the question, when was the last time a former athlete a friend or family, someone in the community asked you for, what should I do? Or do you got a guy? 99% of the athletic trainers are like, oh, I got 3 texts today. 5 people asked me in the bleachers at the football game. And that's because all people really want, not athletic trainers, what the end user, which is what we're really talking about, all they really want is access to advice and support. And athletic trainers provide a lot of support in that comprehensive model. And when it's outside of our scope, we don't have the skill, we then make that direct referral to the downstream specialist in the healthcare system. And there is so much value in that. That is decreasing so much healthcare cost. As we continue to grow, that's all the data that we'll be able to catch, is how much did we save by not going to urgent care, emergency room, then going to see your PCP with both unnecessary images, unnecessary copays. We literally got you directly to the specialist. So it's really a cost savings model. And then on the preventative side, it's like people, when their shoulder hurts, we all know this, they don't do anything about it. They hope it goes away by ignoring it. And then when it doesn't get a little better, they then ask their friends and family what they did. And then when that doesn't work, they then search Dr. Google, and all of a sudden they have cancer for a first-degree sprained ankle, and then they're forced into healthcare, which costs a lot of money. So if we look at what our profession has done around athletic health for 70 years, we're just creating a new access point. It's just a new medium. We're not disrupting. We're not displacing. We're just creating a new focal point that connects athletic trainers with a lot of athletes in their area.
Yeah. Well, and I think you jumped on the idea, especially with the telehealth portion of it. But how many times have you gone to a family function or a party or something and you tell people, oh yeah, I'm an athletic trainer, and they figure out that's medicine, not the lose weight, which we could do. But, you know, athletic trainers aren't pouncing on those opportunities of, they just see it as like, oh, I'm just giving free advice. And it's like, no, if you're smart enough, that's a future customer. And you can bring that back, and you could be their person of, hey, this is bugging me. You know, I don't know if you do a membership fee like you guys are kind of doing, but it's like, you have access to me. If you have any problems, I'll get you to the right people, because we have the network and we're not utilizing it to make money off of most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, right. This is where a lot of athletic trainers sometimes, raise their eyebrows at what I say. Our profession loves to complain and whine about value and about financial limitations, and we don't make enough money. And we scream at the back of the gymnasium brick wall, you need to pay us more. And then we all do exactly what you just mentioned. We go to parties and people ask us for that advice. And guess what we do? We do it for free. And then
or we
complain
sigh and roll our eyes and say, no, I
and
don't
then we
do that.
complain that the NATA is not making us more money. It's like, that's not the NATA's responsibility. However, to give everyone credit, we're never taught business, and there's not a vehicle out there that makes it easy. Yes, there's athletic trainers that have started their own business. I'm giving credit to everybody, but there's not this quick plug and play. Oh, you want to work with me? Here's how you do it. The world of personal training is built on sales. Chiropractors are obviously built on sales. And then healthcare isn't built on sales. It's built on third-party reimbursement. So athletic training is just in this unique niche of opportunity that we have the huge customer base that wants our help. No one has figured out how to monetize those interactions without making the athletic trainer look like a pushy salesman. So we all go to school to be clinicians because we're empathetic and we're sympathetic and we want to help people, and I get it. But we can't complain. You can't have your cake and eat it too, athletic trainers. You got to pick one. Either understand it's a low-paying job, or put on your business hat and figure out how to monetize yourself, which other professions do. Car washers do that. I mean, it doesn't have to be just in healthcare. Everyone figures out that if they're worth something, they should get compensated for it.
Yeah. Well, and no matter where you are on the political spectrum, we are basically between a socialized healthcare and a what's the other one? I just had it. What's the other one? Universal healthcare. We're kind of between those two systems. Not that we're government. The government's not with us, obviously, but the athletic department or the university is technically that overseeing government. So when we come out of school, we have a salary, and people just walk in and we just give them care. We don't have to really think about how much, how do you upsell the thing or the treatment, because that's already included. We're just giving the best care, which is great, but if you wanted socialized healthcare or universal healthcare to go nationwide, we are the little petri dish where you can see, does this work or does this not work? Because we obviously can make it function, but the compensation for it doesn't necessarily work.
Yeah, I mean, the compensation follows the education model, right?
Yeah.
Teachers get paid to be a teacher. It doesn't matter if their students win awards, if they go to Ivy League schools, they get paid for the same amount of work, high, low, how many students, and that's where athletic training was formed. And then if the teacher wants to make more money, they teach clubs, they do tutoring, they do additional stuff on the side until athletic trainers realize, okay, that's the model we came from. How can we evolve the model? And I say that changing sometimes is not appreciated, but evolving, everything has to evolve. So if we look at how can we evolve the profession, not change it, hopefully that creates a different perspective of, yeah, it's 2025. We don't need to do what we did in the 80s anymore, right? Like, it's a whole new generation. It's a whole new resource system out there.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is that we're not pulling money in, but we're not really reflecting on the merit system of how to qualify for increase in pay or raises. Not saying that we can really necessarily base it off prevention of injuries or anything, but there are programs and different pieces to the department that you can add to. It may be, making your PPE more robust, figuring out how to get the EKGs covered and for free for all of the athletes. It's really interesting that we're not super creative on incentivizing getting these different aspects into our program. Which,
I mean, some of the way, not to interrupt you, I apologize.
No, you
but
go.
Some of the other ways, this is literally just coming to mind. I don't have all this flushed out. Some people have some ideas of good idea that's never going to work. But because there's NIL money, I don't know if an athletic trainer is ever going to get NIL money. I know that McNeese State manager got NIL money, so I know anything is possible. But when we talk about the performance perspective, well, if we're preventing injuries and we're preventing the star athletes from not participating in district or state tournaments, and if we win district or state tournaments, well, what if we have incentives based on a healthy roster? Like, there's a lot of different ways that can come into play, that if there's a local car dealership that's going to give money to athletics and or athletes, well, what if we are part of that equation? What if we get 2% for winning a district or a state tournament? And there are some schools across the country, they win like 5 to 6 a year because of all the teams, and it's a really good athletic program. We all know we're part of it. How can we compensate from it as well?
Yeah. Well, that's where I think, blows some of the athletic trainers' minds of outside money. Like, isn't that ethically wrong? I mean, there's so many rules and stuff we have to follow. I can see why people can't stretch their brain to wrap around that and take advantage of it. But there has to be ways around it, or it's having them sponsor equipment, compression boots, slap a sticker on it from your organization that's sponsoring to buy that stuff. Because supplies are kind of one of the biggest variables on your department budget. So, like, why that would be a parameter to work around is, how do you decrease your supply budget so that more money is available to compensate you or get another athletic trainer? It's just being creative ultimately.
Yeah. What do you think the lack of creativity comes from, means, why, all that kind of?
I don't know if we just get burnt out for how much creativity we have to think about in the rehabs, or I think our attention is too much concentrated on the day-to-day activities sometimes.
Yep.
I mean, we're babysitting half the time, not to be mean, but we are just tracking athletes and making sure they're showing up where they need to be, and then new things come in, it gets pushed off. I keep so I'm in the DAT program, obviously, and we have our leadership class, and we had Ron Corson from Georgia in one of my leadership classes, and like he just does so much, and obviously he's starting to retire, but I've always wondered, are we not, I think the job descriptions for leadership positions are too jam-packed. I think they should be simplified, and if you have a good leader, they will create work as needed. But they're kind of there as the relief pitcher when somebody gets sick or new projects or an emergency comes up. I think we overwhelm leadership so much that they can't actually do the leadership stuff of checking in with their athletic trainers, checking in with the coaches. It's so much relationship management that they don't really have time to do that much because they have a team assigned to them at the same time. So they're doing a full-time job and a second job of trying to manage and oversee people and make them better.
So another way to, and this is like me thinking about your answer, there's 3 different terms between leadership, advocacy, and innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think athletic trainers either fall into the first 2 buckets. I'm going to be a leader, and I'm going to teach the next generation of athletic trainers to be an athletic trainer. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's how professions grow, and they continue to be beneficial to the profession and the end customer and the end athlete in our perspective. And then there's advocacy. I'm going to be part of every board I can be on in my 30-year career, and I'm going to hold a ton of different positions so I can be in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm advocating for our profession, which unfortunately sometimes is the same thing, just regurgitated. Innovation is how things occur and how things change. And I don't think our profession accepts innovation well. And I'm speaking from experience. I have a lot of people not liking what I'm doing because I'm pushing the envelope. And I think until we put the innovative hat on within our profession, it's going to be a very slow movement forward. And I'm not saying some of the big innovators that are in the news every single day, like I'm a supporter of them by any means, but we as a profession have to innovate, not just advocate and lead the same thing again and again and again and again.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think we're good at the introspection portion of our job either. Because I think that's where the innovation comes from, is you come up to a roadblock. How are you going to get around it? You're going to climb over it. You're going to stand there, walk around. Are you going to go get some tools to try to break it down? Like, how are you going to navigate that? And I think that's where we get stuck sometimes with these big picture moments on where the profession is going, because we like the athletic training portion. We like carrying out that day to day. It's overwhelming sometimes, but we haven't figured out how to make it less overwhelming and efficient. I forgot who I talked to. I think it was on LinkedIn, but we were talking about restructuring the athletic training room. Of why wouldn't you just have like a rehab specialist? They're in the athletic training room between 12 to 5. People are going in to do rehab with them. You have somebody that's doing field management or like taping or whatever, practice game preparation. And then you have like your emergency team of, they're doing the field management for games or doing the outside rehabs, whatever it needs to be, return to play. And then you have like the administrative person that's, advocating, making sure that the department understands what you're doing, or talking to coaches and stuff. It's maybe a little inefficient, but kind of just trying to restructure what people's responsibilities are ultimately, so that maybe it flows better. Not saying
So
that's the
my
answer.
question, I love the idea. My question is, was it, I mean, I know it was on LinkedIn, so it was a conversation, but was there any action taken behind it?
I mean, I think it's still exploring how do you get enough people to kind of, rotate around that. Or I think that we have a lot of athletic trainers that are really good at certain parts of the athletic training dynamic, but how do you fit them within a team? Like, how do you hire for that sometimes? And have the team dynamic of chemistry and stuff, of communicating efficiently and supporting each other. I mean, when we come out of athletic training school, I feel that we're always just fending for ourselves because there's a high likeliness that you're going to be at a high school by yourself. So we're very independent, and the team mentality. I mean, it was even competitive being in the program at a clinical rotation because you want to go get as many athletes as you could because, I mean, there's the ego portion of, well, I want the athletes coming to me because I'm really good and I need to get my outcomes for class. But there's not really the team dynamic because it's a mentor-mentee or preceptor-student relationship. So you're reporting up to somebody else and you're not colleagues at that point necessarily either because you're still proving yourself. So I don't know if we're setting up the experiences to be able to create a collaboration team ultimately to be able to do that type of setup.
I agree 100%. So when I say this, it's not at a disagreement. It's more about going back to the innovation perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Innovation is hard and you have to take a risk, and you're going to win some and you're going to lose some, but you have to fail fast. And from my experience, a lot of athletic trainers don't want to do that. They don't want to take the risk. They don't want to challenge the status quo. They don't want to challenge their colleagues. They don't want to look bad. They don't want their athletes or coaches not to trust them. So what that creates is just a lot of talking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I see in the social media world is athletic trainers talk. And no one's really putting their forward first and saying, you know what, Shelby, I really like that idea. I'm just going to do it at my high school. I'm the head athletic trainer. I have 2 assistants that come in twice a week, or I'm the head athletic trainer in a college. I'm going to try it. Like everyone has to get validation from so many people instead of just saying, I actually have leadership. People do follow me. And I'm going to advocate for our profession by being innovative and just doing it. And obviously to the listeners, that's a blanket statement. I know there's people doing it. I'm not saying it's not happening, but it's not happening at scale and it's not happening in the large numbers across the country that's going to move the needle.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1 or 2 athletic trainers in small hidden rooms doing something that's beneficial when there's 45,000 athletic trainers just complaining and talking and not really doing anything. That's my challenge to the listeners. Like if you want to make the profession move forward, put one foot in front of the other. And it doesn't mean you have to do a startup. It doesn't mean you have to do anything crazy. Just do something. Like do something that you didn't do yesterday. And people will realize, oh, athletic training has a lot of value. And the athletic trainers are leaders, not the sheep in the herd waiting for someone else to do it for them.
Yeah. Well, and it's not like you're going to lose money. You're not getting promotional monetary raises or anything. And I mean, the worst thing is you get fired, but I don't think people can get fired super easy these days anyway. So.
No. And the other thing is most people don't even know what to do with athletic training. Like we're in this little hidden bubble. We're not going to kill anyone. That's the compassion of athletic trainers that are always going to come out first.
Yeah.
We're not going to sell someone's personal information on the internet. If you're just trying to create a better system, just do something. Like just do it. Tell your athletes you're going to talk to Bob because he's going to manage all of the intake. Sally's going to do all the rehab. And then Phyllis and Sammy are going to be on practice duty. And everyone's going to say, cool, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like no one's going to argue it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think I think I've pointed it before is I think there's this codependency problem we have is that we think we are part of that team and we are part of the success of that team. So we have to be there every minute. We have to be accessible. We have to do anything that's necessary, going and getting the rental cars, going and getting snacks and food. It's just, it doesn't work. And that's why we're burnt out is because you need to find something else outside of work that you're a part of and dependent on so that you're not getting everything out of you living at work all the time either.
No, it's a very interesting perspective. I think that brings the validation mindset that people need me. I went and got the rental car, which has nothing to do with our profession at all, right? You're supporting, you're being
Yeah.
helpful, which brings a lot of value, but it has nothing to do with our profession. What I'm finding when we're talking with coaches that had a working relationship with an athletic trainer, or athletes that had a working relationship, and now they've both moved on to new settings, and we're talking about this telemedicine, virtual athletic trainer approach, athletic trainers are not really going to believe that this is the answer. Their response to us is, that makes total sense, because the real value that we got was your mind, was the ability to ask you questions about what should we do now. You gave us programming, and then you were always available. They literally say, yeah, there were so many times that you're just sitting in the gator, you're sitting in the cart, you're on the bleachers, not doing anything. Like, this makes so much more sense. Like, this makes so much more sense for us as an organization just to have access to you. And it makes more sense that the athletic trainer isn't sitting around countless hours not doing anything.
Yeah.
In our profession, when you talk about the emergency medicine, it's valuable, but EMTs do emergency medicine, right? Like, we don't have to do that. Anyone that has a CPR card can do some of the stuff we do. It's really shifting the perspective as to what are we doing that no one else does, and that's the value that the end user wants. It's not just about, okay, well, I'm going to sit at the soccer field for 9 hours. Hopefully nothing happens, because everyone knows that's just not, it's not the way of the world anymore. It's unused resources.
Well, that's when I was at UCLA, we had a physical therapist on staff. I mean, I think he was PT athletic trainer, but it's like, why wouldn't you hire a physical therapist to do the rehab portion of it? You know, have an EMT that's on site for practices or something. I don't know why it has to be all athletic trainer all the time, which it's good for job security, obviously, but there's more efficient ways to do it ultimately. So I don't know. How do you work around that?
Well, I mean, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. It's all about innovation, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I tell people all the time, millions of people, millions, said, you know what would be cool is if someone put a cell phone or a computer in a cell phone, right? And then Steve Jobs did it, and now it's in every cell phone. They're all smartphones. Someone has to put their foot forward and say, this is a better way to do it, and I'm going to do it. And if people don't like it, oh, well, at least I'm innovating instead of doing more advocacy, more leadership of the same old, same old. We're always going to have advocacy and leadership. It's not going to go anywhere. But the people that really want to be innovative will shape the future of their profession, which is what's needed.
Well, and I'm kind of tired of the advocacy we have, to be honest, because I think we're on that broken record. I've been telling people it's just been Athletic Training Month in March. We get these nice posters. Why do we put them right in our athletic training room or our athletic department? They all know who we are. Why wouldn't you go across campus, go put it up on one of the reader boards so somebody's like, oh, what does that say? Oh, an athletic trainer? What is that? Now, more than ever, athletic trainers are becoming inundated with the growing volumes and sources of data surrounding clinical injury management. In fact, the purpose of data has changed. Whether it's pre-participation examinations, electronic medical records, concussion management, nutrition, or wearable devices, athletic trainers are constantly faced with new and complicated challenges interpreting data to drive patient care outcomes, reduce injury rates, and show practitioner value. To get ahead of this change, athletic training departments turn to Preventix, a data analytics solution provider. With over 25 years of athletic training and clinical data experience, Preventix empowers athletic training and sports medicine organizations with tools necessary to quantify the impact of care interventions on patient success and outcomes. As a trusted partner, Preventix works with you to build a strategy that addresses your specific pain points, integrating all your data sources, providing clean, reliable data, dashboards, and metrics that can be immediately accessed by stakeholders at the point of care. Don't let messy, siloed data continue to negatively impact your care delivery initiatives and practitioner value. Unlock the power of your clinical data today. Visit preventix.com for more information. preventix.com. Or, like, you know, being on the college campus or the high school, like, why wouldn't you have an event where, you know, during finals or midterms where you're having a recovery event, you bring out your equipment. I don't know if you have a lot of Normatex or the massage guns or foam rollers, have a meet and greet with Gatorade or a recovery drink or something odd that we provide and show the student body like what an athletic trainer is and start asking or answering questions and stuff. Like, you have to get creative about it. We keep marketing to the same demographic that know who we are. The only
What did I say
demographic.
about innovation? What did I say about innovation? It's hard. You have to challenge yourself. You have to do stuff you don't like doing. That's the only reason it doesn't happen more.
Yeah.
Great ideas, and they make total sense until someone says, what? I have to go across campus and talk to non-athletes? Oh, I can't do that. They don't know what an athletic trainer is, and I don't have time because I have to cover volleyball practice, and then I have to get the soccer team ready. Like, we always come up with excuses instead of just saying, you're right, I'm going to be innovative. It's easy to talk. Super easy to talk.
Yeah.
It's having walk the walk is what's hard.
I just think we need better marketing
for
our profession.
I agree.
And how are we not, I mean, I don't know if we'd have to spend money, but how are we not like the big sponsor of like the Boston Marathon? I am sure so many athletic trainers would work for free to be there because it's the Boston Marathon. But why is NATA not right under the Boston Marathon logo? And that's how you integrate into the public and the active population, is getting it out there to people that we are not actively working with currently.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just because I was on the DST and the NATA is a membership organization, the budget just might not allow them to be the national lead sponsor of the Boston Marathon. But I understand your point. There might be other opportunities to get the name out there because we're not a revenue generator. So by having their name out there, an athletic trainer profession out there, it doesn't going to fill the financial arm to support the members. So, but I understand.
But if you're a business-minded person, it's a trade-off of, I'm going to provide you 100 athletic trainers to work the event as medical, as a sponsorship trade-off to have our name somewhere on this. So
I'm gonna raise a big question. Most of the board of the NATA, over historical perspective, are all clinical or educational athletic trainers. So
because they have the time to do it.
Exactly, the advocacy, and that's what people like. That's what our profession likes. Oh, that's an athletic trainer that's been an educator for 30 years. They're going to be our district director. That's an athletic trainer that's been at a high school for 30 years. They know what I'm doing. I've literally had people tell me, Adam, you don't even know what it's like to be an athletic trainer anymore. I'm like, okay, I'm literally changing the profession for the good, but because I'm not standing all weekend at a
on
soccer
the sideline,
I can't help you. Like, our profession just sometimes is very backwards in the way that they think. And that's our board. They don't have that.
Academic is the highest paid in our profession too.
Yep.
So you have the highest paid people working at NATA on the board, and they aren't actively on the sideline. So there's just such a disconnect ultimately.
Exactly.
So, and they're much older too. Not saying, ageist or anything, but they are at a point in their career where they're comfortable so that they can request time off too. And, they're not in the active raising of children portion of their lives either, with a full-time job where you have to work a second job to make ends meet. So it's quite a disconnect ultimately in our profession on what is actually needed.
No.
So
you and I probably have multiple other opinions about all of that. We'll bite our tongue a little bit.
Well, and I mean, I think so many athletic trainers their heads are buried in don't understand these
Yeah.
dynamics that are going on. And that was kind of why this podcast bloomed, was it was there, this information needs to get out there so people can actually reflect and understand, why certain things aren't happening. You got to fend for yourself a little bit.
Yep.
And figure it out and be innovative, like we keep saying.
And so, to your point, one of the things that I tell people, the NATA is a membership organization. It's not about an individual income organization.
Yep.
The individual athletic trainer has to do things for themselves. The NATA cannot raise the income level for every single athletic trainer across the country. They can help. They can be an advocacy organization, but they can't do what individuals have to do.
Yeah.
And that is the same model of every other profession that's dealing with the same stuff, right?
Yeah.
Physical therapists are dealing with this. Dentists are dealing with it. Doctors are always dealing with it. I don't want people to think it's just an athletic trainer problem. It's just universal. At the end of the day, the individual has to take a little bit more accountability and responsibility for, all right, if I want to make an extra $5,000 a year, what do I have to do? Go to a local car dealership and tell them, hey, I got a Gator through school, sponsor me $5,000, and they might do it. You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Yeah, and I mean, your schools have lawyers for a reason. So, that big side of the hydroculator has really great space for sponsorship or ad, promotion, whatever you want it to be.
Exactly.
Just make sure that you're not making any ethical problems or crossing any boundaries or rules, but might as well be NASCAR racers at this point and just logo up your athletic training room to an extent.
And why not? It's not going to change our level of service.
No,
we're not selling out to anything. We're doing what's necessary to keep our personal family alive, right? And just focusing on how we make ends meet.
And we already have personal preferences, and guess what? You can paint over that wall if that provider does you wrong or you don't agree with their product anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, and we won't get too political, obviously, even though this is a politics and business podcast. But I mean, just watching how the athletic training community is reacting to governmental politics right now, I don't think we are ready for change ultimately. I think it's been almost 3 months in this change of our federal government, and people are very hypercritical. And this government is moving a whole nation, not a state or a city. So it's going to take time. There are errors that are going to happen. And I think we are so polarized politically in that, I mean, the MAHA movement, the Make America Healthy Again, would be an amazing thing to get athletic trainers behind to gain some leverage within, across the nation. But it's because it is associated with a certain person. And I think some athletic trainers, hiss and burn at that name, but you have to be strategic in how you want to advance the profession ultimately. We don't have to sell our souls or anything, but I think you have to be more critical on self-advancement, even though that sounds bad to an extent. But if you want to get ahead, you have to kind of catch the coattails of certain national movements sometimes.
Well, the big one is just access to providers and the provider shortage.
Yeah.
And there's a $33 billion spend on sports injuries. And I will probably have everyone agree with me. Some of that could have been prevented by speaking with an athletic trainer early on, through prevention, through early intervention, that they didn't have to go get unnecessary x-rays, unnecessary imaging, or possibly surgery just because they waited too long. So you're right. We can make America healthy again. There just has to be the right type of strategy instead of just a shotgun approach of we're going to change everything overnight. That's the challenge for most people. But if athletic trainers say, you know what, we can be part of the bigger solution, and we already have relationships. The last thing that I'll say before we jump off value that athletic training has that most other professions don't have, we have trusted relationships with healthy athletes. Every other discipline builds a relationship when there's a sickness, when there's an illness, when there's an injury, post-surgical. Athletic trainers have relationships with people. That's why they come to us first. We're not primary. We're that guide. We're that navigator. And that, once again, is what athletic training needs to highlight. And if you think about a small town high school athletic trainer, because they worked with Johnny, the 16-year-old, who's the star quarterback, his aunt and uncle, his grandma and grandpa, all their friends and family will ask that athletic trainer, hey, what do you think about my shoulder? What should I do?
Yeah.
It's huge. For some reason, I don't know why we're not capitalizing on it, to your point. It doesn't really make any sense to me. Like why there's not a bigger push of let's just be the local connector and help athletes of all ages and abilities. We're not taking any business away from physical therapists. They don't even go to physical therapists for that. Like they wait until they had surgery. Then they'll see a physical therapist. Like that's not what we're doing at all.
Well, and like the insurance is usually the limiting factor most of the time either. They're not going to go in there and spend cash to see the physical therapist. If it's only if their insurance really covers it, they're going to go see them first.
Yep. Well, it's interesting. You think about Starbucks, Netflix, Uber, Airbnb, they sell two things, convenience and accessibility. And that's what athletic trainers can sell. It's convenient. It's a convenience fee to come to us because we don't have to go through the labyrinth of the healthcare system. And the access literally provides a peace of mind. Mom and dad, so it's not broken. And we're not diagnosing anything. We don't have x-ray vision, but because we've been in sports for so long, we know the difference between MOI, right, mechanism of injury, to how bad they're in pain, what movement patterns they would have. We can tell mom, okay, we don't think it's broken. Do this now. Yeah. We'll talk again in the morning. And then if it isn't getting better and the red flags are there, we will then send you directly to the specialist instead of urgent care, emergency room, PCP.
Yeah. And we're not withholding you going to get an x-ray or anything either. We're just recommending that it's not indicated at this point. So you can, it's not an emergency, run over right now.
Exactly.
So, but, well, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thanks. I appreciate
that riff
it.
was good. My first real riff.
Good job. Yeah. I mean, it's really just having a conversation over a screen. So it was great.
I mean, I have these all the time on the phone. It's just spreading the word.
So normally, do you have like an agenda? Like when you say it was a riff, what's different from the other ones?
I usually have kind of a skeleton so that people understand what topics I'd like to kind of hit on. People are a little uncomfortable with the riffs sometimes. So it's just providing peace of mind that I'm not trying to get them. It's just a conversation and, trying to pull information out and thoughtful ideas and possible solutions at least. And, bringing more points of view to certain subjects ultimately.
Nice. No, good job. It was fun. Yeah.
Cool.
Let me know if there's anything else we want to do together. If you have any other thoughts, I'm available.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for being on.
That's it for today's episode of To the Bone. I hope we've sparked some new thoughts, challenged your perspectives, or simply reminded you to dig a little deeper. Remember, life isn't just about what's on the surface. Sometimes you've got to cut deeper and get to the bone of what really matters. To the Bone podcast is a product of Daly LLC. It is hosted and produced by Shelby Daly, ATC, and Randy Daly. No clinical decision-making should be based solely on one source. While care is taken to ensure accuracy, factual errors can be present. For more on the show, visit www.tothebonepodcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Get involved in the conversation. You can find us at www.tothebonepodcast.com. Drop us topic suggestions or be a potential guest. We're all about connecting with you, our listeners. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and keep cutting deep.